Well, let's now take a look at another story, or rather, the author of the LIMBO trilogy, Consuelo Roland, is back with another deep and dark, but also captivating story in her latest book in the series titled Wolf Trap. Now, after a successful release of Good Cemetery Guide and Lady Limbo, this current read follows the story of Paola Dante, a driven project manager, as she goes through the hell in an effort to try and protect herself and her family. And she joins us now from Skype. A very good morning to you, Consuelo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show.
All right, before we get deeper into your writing career, let's perhaps start with your transition from being a professional in the corporate environment to being a writer. How did that come about? Why did you decide to leave the corporate world?
Lots of corporate stress. And I decided I needed a change in my life, and I did a degree at UCT, a Master's in Creative Writing. And that gave me the confidence I needed to make the change.
All right, let's talk about the LIMBO trilogy. How did this come about?
Well, it was a combination of two things. An elderly relative came back from Europe. She was diverted to Paris in a bad storm. The flight was diverted. And she came back with a very interesting story about an air stewardess who had a little black book with an address in it of a very interesting organization that allowed independent women to have children on their own terms. And then I read a quote, a Dante quote about limbo, and somehow it all came together.
Let's talk about the protagonist in the book, Paola Dante. In as much as she is a very strong character, but she does have a little bit of darkness in her. Let's talk about that deeply, about the characteristic.
I think, yes. I think that when things change in her life, there's these life-altering events, and suddenly her very ordered, regulated life, which she's in control of, is totally out of control. And she discovers aspects of herself that she's basically not aware of, and that she's perhaps been hiding from herself. I guess I believe everybody has a dark side. And sometimes events make us discover that dark side, and sometimes perhaps people go through an entire life not actually knowing that they have a dark side.
Now, the story is based in Camps Bay in Cape Town, right? So why was it important for you to capture the true essence of this city in such a deep and a dark story as this one?
I guess it's an aspect of Camps Bay that I find quite intriguing. There's something about the atmosphere. It's when I sit there and people are sipping champagne and wine, and there's clearly a lot of wealth and a lot of time on people's hands, it makes me see other things. I see people watching other people in ways that are not necessarily, they're very dark. There's clearly things happening, or their thoughts are a lot darker than it appears on the surface. And it always, I guess I was an out-of-town girl. I came from Durban in KZN, and perhaps it struck me more because of that, that Cape Town was a very sophisticated and cosmopolitan world, but there was also a lot of money, a lot of darkness underlying all of that.
Now, in the book, you explore themes such as love and happiness, single parenthood, life and death. What sort of message are you trying to put across as you tackle these topics?
I suppose it's an imaginative exploration of what it means for a modern woman to have a career, to have everything, to have a career, to have a marriage, to have a lot of time on her hands, to say, I don't want to have children. And then to be actually tested, to see whether that's actually true. And also the sexuality aspect. you know, how far does one go in a modern world that basically says there are no limits? As a modern woman, you can do whatever you like. And I find that very interesting. And it's, yeah, just a small exploration.
Now, in this series, Consuelo, you decided to tap into a genre that hasn't been fully explored in the South African context. Bold move, I must say. Why did you decide to go for this route?
I'm not sure if you choose the story or the story chooses you. I have to say there's been many times when I've thought, gosh, couldn't I have written something else? But it's not how it happens. I write very much from visuals, and the visuals are terribly strong. They drive the stories, and they always have, from the Good Cemetery Guide. When I first saw the undertaker in front of the mirror after playing guitar, and then when the Lady Limbo idea came, I could visualize her very strongly because I'd known women like Paola Dante in my life. And sometimes I think that the characters in my books are more real than the people in my own life. So it's really not something I feel I chose. It seemed to come along, and it keeps on coming along.
Now, Consuelo, we're really itching to know more about Paola Dante. Any plans for a sequel?
Yes, I'm busy writing book 3, and it's a bit disturbing because book 4 is trying to make itself felt as well. And I'm hoping that it ends with book 3 and I can move on to the next challenge. But it's a bit like being possessed. You just have to take it to the end, and then it lets you go.
Tell you what, Consuelo, I think the story chose you because you are the most prolific writer to have ever captured the true essence of what it means about this particular character. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
All right. That's the author of the Limbo Trilogy, Consuelo Roland, and she's been speaking to us via Skype. All right. This is Morning Live. Let's go for a third break now.